Okay, it's 7:05. I'm calling to order the meeting of the San Leandro City Council work session. Today is Monday, October 14th, 2024. Could I please have Councilmember Azevedo lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. I'll take roll call. Councilmember Aguilar.
Present.
Councilmember Azevedo.
Present.
Councilmember Baloo.
Present.
Councilmember Bowen. Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Present.
Vice Mayor Simon is not yet joined our audio call. And Mayor Gonzalez.
Present.
Thank you. A quorum is present.
Okay, so at this point in time, I'll go to our announcement. Item 2, the City of San Leandro conducts orderly meetings to fulfill its mandate. Discriminatory statements or conduct that would potentially violate the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964 and or the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, California Penal Code sections 403 or 415 are per se disruptive to a meeting and will not be tolerated. Please see the City Council Handbook and City Council Meeting Rules of Decorum for more information. And Madam Clerk, if you would make your announcement regarding public comment on agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor. If you would like to make a public comment during the meeting, you can do so in person or via Zoom. If you are present at the meeting, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the city clerk before the item is presented. If you wish to participate in public comment via Zoom, you can use the raise hand tool when the item is called. During the public comment session, speakers will be invited to speak and will have a set time to share their comments. A countdown timer will appear for their convenience, and when the time is up, the microphone will be muted. All raised hands outside of public comment will be lowered to avoid confusion. Once the public comment is open, hands may be raised to speak. Thank you.
And although we typically have a report on closed session as a separate line item, or we can make that announcement upstairs about what has transpired at the end of our closed session, we're going to handle that at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. No reportable actions were taken in closed session, and we only handled item 3B. We did not go to item 3A. So 3A will be on a future agenda.
Okay, so at this point in time, we're going to move to our presentations. We have presentations that are really focused on our work plans, getting some updates and describing our new items and how we're progressing specifically on quality of life. So let's begin with item 3A. We've got City Manager Janelle Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, City Council members, community members. Tonight, we have our update on the council priority work plans. As most of you know, we currently have 5 council work plans. 3 of those work plans were established in 2023. That would be public safety, infrastructure, and housing and homelessness. So those are the main 3 areas we will focus on tonight within this presentation. Next, we'll have a presentation after this on your first time looking at the quality of life work plan. And then next month, we'll have a presentation on our economic development work plan. As you know, last month, the economic development team came before council to have the economic development strategy approved by council. So you'll see that work plan next month. So first, we'll kick it off with public safety, and our own Chief Everett will be providing that presentation.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to report that my report out will be very brief. And that is to say that the public safety initiatives the goals have all been reached. And I would like to take a moment, thank you, to acknowledge the PD team that worked on some of these because a lot of things were done prior to my arrival. No, 1 second, I'm going to try it. Sorry, I didn't practice beforehand. 'Cause
while we work through the technical issues, just wanting to let the public know and our record reflect that we have Vice Mayor on.
Okay, so as we go through the list of the public safety deliverables, you'll notice the status to the far right, which shows complete for all the items. If you can advance to the next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. And I think one or two more slides down. Keep going, one more. Okay, we can stop it right there. As you can see, we had a lot of items that we needed to work through, and they were worked through. At this time, I'd like to pass it over to Megan Stevenson to talk about the Wildfire Public Safety Power Shutoff PG&E training, which is delayed, and then two other items involving the Great Shakeout Drill and the Emergency Operations Plan updates.
Megan Stevenson, Risk and Emergency Manager. A quick update. So our public safety power shutoff wildfire training is no longer being offered. It's actually provided by PG&E, but we've done a lot of good work with our cooling centers, which is the first half of that. A public safety power shutoff is usually a heat wave with dry weather plus no power. So luckily we've been doing lots of good work because of all the heat waves. And then I think everything else is in good shape. A lot of internal plans written. We have a big Great Shakeout Drill coming this Thursday. So drop cover and hold on. And then we evacuate City Hall. And I think we're good. I think there's one thing at the very bottom. Local hazard mitigation plan is on schedule, and we are entering our contract with that right now. Any other questions on that?
Okay, and with that, that completes the public safety work plan update, and I'll pass it on to infrastructure.
Thank you, Chief. Next slide, please. Good evening. My name is Sheila Marquises, Public Works Director, and I'm pleased to present updates to the infrastructure work plan. The first subcategory, which is community cleanup. We've completed most of the tasks and we're finalizing just enhancement of the communication and reporting of requests for cleanup services as we had deployed our new C-Click Fix system. And the next category is beautification. We've either completed or on track. 2C is at risk or delayed, which is our negotiation with Caltrans and the potential relinquishment of East 14th Street and completion of the Parks Master Plan with end of this year for council adoption. Slide. Facilities Condition Assessment Plan. We have a delayed task for implementing our capital planning software for strategic asset management. That is our program that we will be using to strategically fund our assets, and it'll give us funding scenarios and prediction of which assets we should focus and fund with our limited resources. It's faced a few delays because we prioritized our C-Click Fix deployment. Also, we've completed exploring the revenue measure. Next slide. Also, for these items, we are on track for impact fees and community financing districts, and also for fully funding CIP. See. We're all on track to develop policy and allocate staffing resources. Next slide. Oh, and I'll pass it on to Director Lobadan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Director Lobanon with Human Services, and I'll be jointly presenting with Director Liao from Community Development. Starting with the Navigation Center, most of the items for setting up the operational programs for the Llewellyn Interim Housing Program are on track or completed. One note is that we will be commencing Navigation Center operations in March of 2025. I will turn it over to Director Liao to discuss any status updates on increasing housing subsection of the work plan.
Great, thank you. So regarding increasing housing actions, we've completed the majority of them in community development. The most notable one, as you all know, is our recent announcement of getting our pro-housing designation, which we as a city are extremely excited about. But going forward, the ones that are left include looking at the impact fee studies that were concurrent with what Director Marquises mentioned with capital improvements. We're also looking at how they impact residential development. So we expect that to be coming to you sometime later this year, early next year. In addition, we'll be preparing the parking impact and transportation demand management study as well. That'll be forthcoming. These are actually items that are in our current housing element. And then we're also looking to develop early next year, a developer's housing toolkit to assist with development. And further down the line is kind of our revisions to an updating of the Bayfair TOD plan. We're looking to do a more specific development precise plan in that area that will, we hope to be done by sometime in early 2026. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Director Lobanon to discuss addressing and preventing homelessness.
Thank you. And under this subcategory, also pleased to announce that many of the items are either complete or on track. One notable on-track program is the Mental Health Crisis Unit Alternative Response Unit, which is set to launch in December of this year. I will note that the items related to the safe parking site are at risk delayed, primarily due to staff capacity, but we are working with community development to identify a landscape analysis of development opportunities in the city, including the safe parking program. And I'll hand it back over to City Manager Cameron to discuss the plan for the next 6 months.
Thank you so much, team. I really want to just lift up and celebrate our team for doing an amazing job over the past year and a half working through these work plans. As you can see, there's a lot that's been accomplished. There's still work to be done, and I'm really excited about what we've done thus far. So over the next 6 months, as I mentioned earlier, we will roll out the quality of life work plan, as you'll see this evening, and then next, the economic development work plan. Though we have met our goals thus far on police staffing, there's still work to be done, and so we will continue to make that a high priority for the police department to get staffed where we need to be able to serve the community. Emergency management, it's still something that we're working on. I really want to thank Megan and her team for all the work they've done thus far, getting us where we are, but we still have some way to go first to the facilities committee and then to the council. But the team has been doing an amazing job working with the community and our consultants on getting those master plans completed. Sheila mentioned about the impact fee study, and we've talked about the navigation center. And so I'm excited that in the next few months, you'll see the rollout of our emergency alternative response unit. It's been a long time coming. I thank council for all their support in making that happen. I want to also thank the Alameda County Fire Department for their support in making that happen. And it's just really a great team effort between, Human Services, Fire, and PD, just really making San Leandro safe and providing services for those that are most in need in our community. And Mayor, that concludes our presentation.
Thank you for the presentation. Well done. I'm going to come to council members for clarifying questions, and we'll go to the public for comment, and then we'll offer our commentary. So questions beginning with Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Thank you. I have a public safety question and then a housing question and a possible infrastructure. That's just, I'm gonna go down. In terms of public safety, so we're currently budgeted for 91 positions, 91 sworn positions. And according to the plan, it says that we've reached our goal of 80%, which leaves us now at 72 or 73, because when I did the math, it was like 72.8. I wasn't sure kind of where we were in terms of numbers? Because we have the percentage, but not the actual number.
72%.
We're at 72 sworn.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 72 sworn, yes.
Thank you. And then, of those sworn officers, okay, let's just put a pause there. In terms of the other positions that we are budgeted for that do like dispatch and that do direct like community response that are not sworn officers, can you tell us a little bit about those positions? 'Cause when I was looking at the budget, there was like police service technicians, there was various positions, and it looks like they might have been reclassified. Tell me a little bit about the positions that are public facing that are not sworn officers that also take on some of this community work.
Yes, I'll start with our records specialists. They are work in our records division. They are public facing and they assist members of the public at the front counter for such things as police reports, vehicle releases, things like that. Our police service technicians work in the field, towing and marking abandoned vehicles, doing traffic control, helping out with various community events. They also staff our jail, so when we have an in custody, they become the custodians of the in custody and make the transports out to Santa Rita Jail.
And I believe when I saw the budget, it was at 10. And I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot with the number of people.
I'm used to it. It's okay.
I usually like to ask the questions in advance, so I apologize for that.
It's okay.
And are we fully staffed in that, or are also in the process of recruiting and putting them in place?
Well, here's the challenging part of public safety is we get very close to being fully staffed and then we lose people for different reasons. So we were close to being fully staffed. We recently lost 2 PSTs. So we do still have 2 openings. However, we do have several individuals in background. So I'm confident that we will reach our goal of full staffing with PSTs within the next couple of months.
Thank you. I'll transition over to housing. I'm looking at the work plan and it looks like the original work plan date for renter protections was in June of 2024. And the revised date was next year, June of 2025. Wanted to ask, I'm particularly concerned regarding that new date. And maybe this happened before I came to the council. Can you talk a little bit about that date?
Yeah, no, I think just based on our current schedule and how we've been kind of reporting out to rules. So we felt that maybe providing you all a more realistic time frame. So.
Okay. And are we expecting, and maybe this is a question for our city manager, are we expecting to have it go back to rules before the end of the year? Or are we looking early next year?
Yes.
Thank you. The next Rules Committee meeting, which is the meeting in this month in October, is on housing protection and rent registry. So we will be discussing that this month.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. My next question is on, actually, I'll just leave it at that. I'll save, I think the infrastructure question is going to be asked by other members of my council, of my colleagues. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councilmember Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with an infrastructure question. And I want to talk about item 2A, the $800 million ARPA funds that were allocated for beautification projects. Can you share a little bit about some of those projects? Because I know that that is such a priority for our residents.
And I'm going to try to work from memory because the 800,000 was dispersed through a few different efforts, and I can maybe turn to a few of my colleagues for help. But I know some of those funding went towards cleanup efforts, illegal dumping. We also requested for funding for replacement of decorative streetlights when they get hit. And I also believe we asked for funding for median maintenance and cleanup. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in or any other items.
So I'm going to come over here to city manager, who's can also tap into her list.
Thank you, Mayor. And not to steal Director Zuniga's thunder as he presents, but he also has some slides under quality of life around beautification and where the ARPA money went.
As a follow-up to that, once the ARPA funds are spent, then is it going to be a question of us? Obviously, we will need to continue to maintain beautification in the city, but ensuring that we have funding to be able to do so.
Thank you for that question. That's an excellent question. So the ARPA money we received overall, there are items within that budget that only have funding through ARPA. So as we come to you this spring with the 2-year biennial budget, because it's the year that we will do our budget, we will identify some of those items that will need future funding that will not have funding after the ARPA money is expensed.
Thank you. I want to ask a few questions around housing and homelessness. One, I really appreciate all the staff work around the Navigation Center. Clearly, there were a lot of applications and a lot of work between different departments for that. I was a little bit, I heard you give a brief explanation, Director Lobadan, around the 2 at-risk projects that I was interested in learning more about. Implementation of the pilot safe parking program, as well as the launch of the additional micro safe parking programs. You mentioned staffing. Could you speak to that a little bit? And then I think that there was another constraint challenge that you mentioned, but where are we on that? And is there any collaboration with the county on being able to direct residents or people in San Leandro to the safe parking programs that they do have off of I forget what street that's on. What I'm talking about.
Yes, thank you for your question. So staffing challenges have been one of the reasons for a delay in launching a safe parking program. I'm thrilled that we just recently were able to hire additional staff, but we have been rather lean for the past year that I've been here. Another one of the reasons for a delay in this program is just identifying the physical space for a safe parking program. We've been working very closely with faith-based organizations to try and identify that as an opportunity for safe parking sites, as well as city facilities, and have gone so far as to look at commercial facilities that we could lease or purchase. So currently we're working with community development on doing a landscape analysis of what are available development opportunities in the city, and that could include safe parking. One of the other challenges is that we, in speaking with the providers who work with this community and in with everything that we often all hear, RV parking is one of the major issues as opposed to vehicular homelessness in vehicles, which is a very different program than a traditional safe parking program. And then to the second part of your question around collaboration and working with the county, as part of the county's recent emergency declaration on homelessness, we did, as staff, recommend that the county explore safe parking and continue to advocate for a countywide safe parking program. Our providers do refer eligible households to the Fairmont Safe Parking site, and unfortunately, RVs are not accepted at that program. Thank you.
To follow up, then you mentioned that obviously with RVs, it's a different beast to try to address and work through. What are we doing then to be able to address that? Because it can't be the same process.
So our nonprofits that we work with to conduct outreach work with households residing in RVs to try to identify long-term housing options. We're also trying to be very creative about how to house these households as well. Some are families, and so they wouldn't be eligible for the upcoming NIMITs, but we are looking to see if that's an eligible pathway to permanent housing as well. So a lot of targeted outreach and engagement to work with the households residing in RVs to move into permanent housing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that work. I have a final quick question. around public safety and some of the numbers that Councilmember Rivera-Walton mentioned. I imagine with attrition, obviously we have a due date here, to reach 71% by the revised due date is 12/31/23. But with attrition, I guess it feels like a moving target. And so we can feel good about it and then somebody leaves and then, obviously trying to make sure that we maintain like a level number that's, and obviously to get to full staffing. And then in terms of, adding more staff members, maybe non-sworn as well with code enforcement and, those police service technicians that you were talking about, that's doing really important work. How's that built into some of these deliverables?
Well, I think it's important to note that it seems like it's a little easier to hire police service technicians than to hire police officers. Also, their training is significantly shorter than an entry-level police officer. The unfortunate thing is, yes, like you said, due to attrition, either from people retiring, getting injured, or seeking employment elsewhere, we traditionally lose, I'll say, between 10 and 20% of our force probably every year. We have accounted for that, and this is why we revamped our recruiting efforts. But I will also say that we are very focused on retention efforts, right? Because we can hire 100 people, but if we can't make them want to stay and work here at the San Leandro Police Department, then that's a bigger issue. So I think our recruitment and retention efforts have been paying off, but unfortunately, it's the nature of law enforcement right now and the difficulties that we're all having in recruiting.
We'll go to Councilmember Azevedo.
Thank you all for your presentation. Most of my questions got answered, but in regard to the safe parking site, what happened to, I know we were talking with Halcyon Baptist Church when we were going to do something with them. Are we still working with them?
We've had conversations with this specific location and have been working with them to identify additional infrastructure needs that the site might have in order to accommodate safe parking. We'll continue to engage them, but right now they're not one of our primary locations we're looking at.
All right, another question in regard to the revenue measure. Project launch and 1A through 1D. How much did that cost the city to explore the revenue measure that we decided it wasn't going to work?
So I'm going to go to City Manager.
Don't have the exact number that we paid for that, but I can tell you that we saved $101,000. The reason why I know that is because we talked about today about that goes back into the general fund in the meeting we had earlier this morning. But I can definitely get the exact what we spent and get that to council.
That's all my questions.
Coming to Councilmember Blue.
Two quick questions. Thank you, staff, for this proposal or this presentation. First question is for Jessica. Second was for Tom. Jessica, this safe parking idea, is there a budget carved out for that yet, or has that even been discussed, or is it still premature?
Towards RV safe parking, RV outreach, but not towards the RV safe parking site.
Do we know if there's money left there, or whether that all been expended?
Why don't we come back to City Manager for that?
The question of if there's money left, I don't know the answer to that. But the important part of the question is, will we be able to expend it? So ARPA rules say that we have to have everything encumbered by December, I think 31st, 2024. I know for sure it's December 2024, maybe another day in the month. And I'm not sure, I do not believe that we will have this program up and running to be able to even use the ARPA funds if there are funds available in that short amount of time.
Thank you. And then my question for Tom, softball Tom, I didn't send it to you ahead of time. San Leandro has a pro housing designation. For those who are watching that may not know what that is or what that means, can you give us the thumbnail of what is a pro housing designation and what does it mean?
In essence, it's basically that we are a housing supportive city with our policies and programs in place for increasing production of housing. We've done a lot over the recent years and have some forthcoming to streamline zoning and things like that. So it really puts us in the forefront of, hopefully with development, both for-profit and affordable, coming into our community knowing that we have policies in place that can stimulate housing production.
Thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to Councilmember Aguilar, and then I'll be coming to you, Vice Mayor. So first, Councilmember Aguilar.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. Congratulations on the pro-housing legislation on getting that designation here in San Leandro. With regards to the Bayford TOD, are we partnering with BART to advocate and work in conjunction with them with regards to housing?
Yes, in fact, our partnership with BART is even closer than it was when we were doing the planning. So they're an active member with us in our discussions with the property owners, in the current Bayfair owners. So they've been very active. I think one highlight I can share is that BART has moved our BART station, Bayfair BART station, up on their priority list for improvements. So we were in the middle tier when we were done with the plan in 2018, but given the progress they've seen, the rezoning, the streamlining, the activity with some of the new ownership that's there, they've moved us up and elevated us on their priority list for station improvements. So yeah, we're very engaged and they're very engaged in the process. They've been a great partner.
Wonderful. And with regards to the Llewellyn Interim Housing, the Navigation Center, I should say, do we foresee any delays or roadblocks ahead with the anticipated opening date of March 2025?
Right, but as you saw from the schedule, we did do a kind of a check in terms of providing a more realistic time frame. But I can say that at least with the construction, which has started at the beginning of August, it's been moving pretty well. There are typical things. We have an older structure and we're doing rehab, remodeling. So, some of the minor delays, I would say, is just typical things that you find when you kind of open up some of the walls and the floors. But so far, nothing major. And as we've just our director a little bit on pointed out, we're on schedule for the March. And that really is the state deadline. So we're on track. We had pushed a more aggressive schedule before.
Thank you. And then with regards to the soft story ordinance, I didn't see it on here. Is there an update on soft story ordinance?
Provide one. I think it's part of, I don't know if it was on the work plan, but it was part of your sort of other priorities for housing. So that has gone to rule so that we are planning to bring that to council first reading sometime in November. So hopefully we can get that reviewed and approved before the end of the year.
Fabulous. Thank you. My question.
Vice Mayor Simon, please.
Thank you. My first question is on housing. And Beatrice in Washington, there was low income housing plan there by road. Could you provide an update on that, where we're at with that?
Sure, Vice Mayor Simon. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So yeah, that is still an active project. Abode Communities from Southern California is still the property owner and developer for the 100% affordable proposal there. It's 72 units of housing. There was a kind of a setback recently that we did find out from Alameda County Housing Authority that they were not going to proceed with a request for proposals for project-based Section 8 vouchers, which are critical to some of the permanent supportive housing that are in that project. And so other cities that have permanent supportive housing are also unfortunately impacted. So I would just say for now, we have a very engaged nonprofit developer, very experienced developer, and we're working closely with them and with the county to seek alternative financing right now.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on why they were not going for Section 8 housing?
Again, unfortunately, it's actually an issue that was sort of nationwide. Those are kind of in high demand, the project-based Section 8 vouchers. They're usually financing that's put in up front in the development process that's controlled by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and they're allocated by Congress, and they're pretty high demand item, and there's really not enough of them. And so our understanding was there's many states throughout and counties were impacted, and some of the money had to be sent to more urgent pressing areas in the country. And so we were not able to get around in our county for this coming year. So we're looking at alternative financing sources.
Thank you. My next question is on public safety. And appreciate that we're moving up in our numbers for police building higher staffed. And I'm totally supportive of us getting fully staffed. But my concern is, as I've heard, once we do get staffed up, we do lose people for retirement or whatever other issues are leaving. And was hoping that we could look at private security, unarmed private security to supplement full-time police staff, not take their place, but supplement them while our numbers are down. I brought this up a few council meetings prior. Have we ever explored this or any kind of movement on that topic?
So we'll toss that to the chief.
Thank you for your question, Vice Mayor Simon. As the police chief, I would oppose such a plan. Although we are short-staffed, I think that we are doing remarkably well with the number of staffing that we currently have, both sworn and professional staff. We're not at our ideal levels of staffing, but I am confident in our ability to serve our community and keep our community safe. So I would not support such a proposal.
Okay, I'll have comments on that a little bit later. And my next comment would be on infrastructure, tree master plan, eucalyptus trees that took out our pedestrian bridge, and Manor's got other issues with eucalyptus. Wanted to find out if there's any specific looking at eucalyptus trees.
So let's go to Director Suniga on that item. And maybe we can have this mic turned on at the lectern.
Testing. Vice Mayor, there is developing maintenance plans for different species of trees in the tree master plan, not specific to eucalyptus, but they did a tree inventory on all the trees in San Leandro, which is now posted on our website on Tree Plotter. But yeah, there will be maintenance plans for all the tree species that we have in the city of San Leandro. So yeah, just to answer your question, eucalyptus is on that list.
Thank you.
So are those all your questions? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, that's my questions. I will follow up on the public safety item. I guess I can't ask the question since it is the question. I'd have to ask the chief, why are you opposed to bringing in unarmed security if they can bring the levels up and provide a deterrent to prevent the crime that we are seeing and residents are very concerned about, especially Bayfair and other hotspots in the city? Why would you be opposed to that?
I certainly would encourage business owners, if they have a desire to hire their own private security for their private properties. I would encourage if someone has a desire for that. As far as the police department is concerned, we do have professional staff or police service technicians who are non-sworn personnel. And our goal is to not only get fully staffed with our PSTs, but also to perhaps overhire so that we can account for the attrition, but also to deploy them in different areas of the community. As I stated earlier, I do 100% believe that given the resources we currently have, that we are definitely addressing the issues that are occurring in our community.
And when do we have a timeline? When do we expect to be fully staffed?
Are you referring to our sworn police officers or our professional staff?
Sworn, thank you. Sworn.
Sworn. Well, in an ideal world, we'd be fully staffed right now, right? My target goal right now would be to reach full staffing by mid-2026. Whether or not that goal is realistic, I can't tell you right now because I can't account for unplanned leaves. Sometimes individual officers make a choice for family reasons or whatever reason to work in other communities. And those are things that we can't account for. What we can account for are pending retirements, which we will see some at the end of next year that will impact us. And so really being focused on our or revamping our recruitment efforts 2 years ago has had a significant impact on our ability to hire. So I can't give you an exact date, but I can give you a goal that I would like to see full staffing. But the reality is that I don't have a crystal ball to really be able to give you a definitive answer on and when we will be fully staffed. I don't know many departments in the Bay Area that are currently fully staffed. So as I stated, this issue with
Follow up on this, and it's probably for the city attorney on this question of private security. If the city were to hire private security, would that be like a meet and confer issue for the unions under the Myers-Milius-Brown Act?
So these would be city employees? Yes, absolutely.
And if they were third-party vendor,
If their provision or procurement would affect the issues related to bargaining, such as wage, an hour, et cetera, effects on that, discipline, yes, of course.
thank you.
Okay, council, are there any more questions? Okay, at this point in time, we will go to public comment on this item. Madam Clerk, do we have any cards in person?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Okay, and then we can take online public comment, please.
Yes, we currently have one raised hand, and that is Douglas Spalding. If you would please unmute yourself. Douglas, are you there? We cannot hear you. If you can hear us.
I am not muted.
There you
Hello,
are. We can
hello.
hear you.
Oh, now you can hear me?
We can.
All right. Thank you, Clerk. Hello, members of the City Council. I'm very delighted to hear all of the progress on these plans, and want to commend especially. May I see the clock, please? The Human Service Department Development Group for all of your very hard work. It's exciting to know the new Navigation Center will be opening in March, although it's been a long time coming. However, I noted that, prospects for a new Navigation Center will be starting in, we'll start to look in January 2026. That seems like a late start too. Why aren't we looking right now? And why aren't we looking for a second Navigation Center? I'm happy that the safe parking is in mind, although that also is delayed, but still I see no plans for a safe encampment. Most people, people that don't have houses, very don't, more people have houses than have cars, and more people don't have cars that are unhoused. Okay, so when it comes to council, I can't be so glowing. It seems like the main thing that's missing is housing reform, and it's very important in terms of the unhoused, because one of the main things we can do is keep people in their houses so we don't increase the number of people that are unhoused. And I have to say it, but you've been stalling. It seems like there's some low-hanging fruit. We should already have a rent registry going. And then there are other tenets in a housing reform policy, including rent stabilization to cap annual increases and keep housing affordable, just cause requirements for evictions to protect tenants and property owners, the anti-harassment clause to protect renters when they're exercising their rights, a private right section so that individuals can hold violators and the city accountable. So, you know, the list goes on, but let's get
Your
started.
time is up. Mayor, there are no more raised hands.
So I'll close public comment and come back to council members for any final thoughts on this item. I seem to recall Councilmember Bowen.
So just want to ask everybody in the community and us included to amplify that. I also wanted to acknowledge SLPD and all the work that the police department has been doing to work through many of these deliverables. I met one of our newest police officers this afternoon in front of Washington Elementary. My son was very excited to go up to the car and say hi. And he spoke a little bit about, you know, what was that particular patrol was working the beat around that school in our neighborhood, which as council, we've known has been a lot of activity. So I really just appreciate, I want to uplift that. I also, council members are, as we get updates on things that are happening of note, and I really just want to appreciate all the work that SLPD has been doing, especially around removing illegal firearms in the community. And I hear about some of them, and some of them are very close to our schools. And as a parent, that's incredibly, difficult to hear, but I'm really glad that we are able to get as many of them off the streets as we can. And I just really want to uplift the SLPD staff for working as hard as they do.
Vice Mayor, I recall that you wanted to make a comment, and maybe it was answered through your question comment, but floor is
Thank you.
yours if you'd like it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I want to thank staff for all their hard work and just an outstanding job from every department, public safety, housing, infrastructure, full plate. I know there's a full plate all the way around. However, I am very concerned about public safety, and I know our sworn officers are stretched thin and they're doing all that they can. It's been going on since I've been on council, going on 4 years now, and we're hearing mid-26, maybe, not sure. So I am supportive that someone else could help with to make our residents feel safer. As I mentioned before, I've been to Bay Fair and I've seen open drug dealing at 2 in the afternoon on my way to the movies with my family. And I am concerned about making things better, quicker, sworn officers, and would like to bring in some backup, not to replace them, but just to help them.
Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez, and thank you to staff for, you know, all that you do and for helping us work through this priority session. And now a lot of us ask for the world, and thank you for delivering. And I know it takes some time and working to get together and collaborating. Congratulations on the pro-housing designation. That means a lot. You know, I also, with regards to funding for Project Home Key to move forward with our navigation center so that we can help those that are in need in our city of San Leandro. I'm looking forward to working with the community with regards to renter protections, rent stabilization, and hearing some more feedback around that so that we can finally see this come through to fruition. Also, the South Story ordinance, that's great to hear that we're moving along, and we'll see that in November. And thank you so much for everything. Appreciate it.
Okay, looking down the aisle, seeing no more comments, I'll offer a few of my own. In an odd sort of way, I'm glad to see that some items have been delayed, because it's a realistic assessment that we've given you a lot to do and that not everything can be done. I think we've asked you to please make sure that we're checking things off and that we're getting things done as opposed to having lots of things half done, because it demonstrates to the public that we can make very specific, measurable progress with completed deliverables. So I'm glad that your actions are reflecting what the council has asked of you. I think that it's as we're crossing off items, part of this effort inherently involves adding new goals and new objectives and new measurements. So we hit 80% on PD, 72, but we're budgeted for 91. Okay, so what's the 6-month plan to get the next tranche, et cetera, so that we're always pushing for a very specific goal. I think your council has repeatedly just focused on metrics, so that we can see that progress. And we like what we're seeing, and so we're just going to keep asking for more. The last thing is that I would like to also highlight the pro-housing designation, and a tremendous work went into achieving that designation. I think that San Leandro stands out, with the 4th highest score in the entire state of California. It's a demonstrated commitment, and unlike a number of cities that are being sued by the state of California, we're on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. We're saying, no, come and build here, come and invest here. And so it's part of our strategy to build out that housing, to create more opportunity for people. And so we just need to continue that effort to make sure that not only do we create the environment in terms of the rules and the regulations from the housing team, but that we have a full environment that is supportive of that investment. And so with that, I'm going to move to our next item, which is item 3B. And we're going to drill down specifically this month into one of our newer priorities on quality of life. And for this one, we've got Recreation and Parks Director Vicente Zuniga here to kick off the presentation. I don't know if you'll be doing handoffs or not, but the floor is yours.
Of the residents of San Leandro. So today we're going to be presenting a work plan that's a little more focused on 3 areas, which are art, culture, and education, beautification, and health and wellness.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much for allowing us to present this evening. So the arts, culture, and education piece of these priorities, the mission here is to really promote the inclusivity, creativity, and cultural expression through accessible programs and initiatives that reflect the diversity of San Leandro. We're really focusing in 2 big key areas, one of which is to empower local artists and cultural organizations, and the other is to focus on that educational aspect, to expand the educational opportunities through arts, but also through technology. Next slide, please. So the first of the 5 priorities within this section is to develop and implement an arts grants program. And I think, as we know, with any program, if we're looking to achieve something, especially something as potentially expansive and maybe even nebulous as art can be, we have to make sure it's within a budget. So our first activity would be to establish a budget through the Arts, Culture, and Library Commission with guidelines for and criteria for grant eligibility, and focused on local artists and cultural organizations. And the next piece of this would be to produce the grant program through workshops and info sessions to increase community participation. We want to make sure our community knows about it so they can participate. And then thirdly, to identify local businesses and sponsors to expand opportunities for larger projects. So that might mean funding, that might mean maybe a local business has a wall that they would like muraled. So that could go a lot of different directions, but just to find those partners is really important. Next slide, please. So another priority we would like to focus on is to expand utilization of art gallery spaces in city facilities and establishing partnerships for installations. So the first piece of this is really to identify all the city facilities that can function as art gallery spaces. We know we have a very specific one at the library, but it's possible we have others, including some of our outdoor spaces. So there's opportunity that we can maybe think beyond the traditional gallery and think a little differently. The next piece is to identify local agencies and artists to submit exhibit proposals and highlight diverse artistic expressions for consideration by the Arts, Culture, and Library Commission for display at the city facility gallery spaces. And then lastly, we want to facilitate the public art receptions and gallery tours by these artists to engage the community in these new installations. So it's not just putting it out there, but it's also getting people involved with the artist in a way that's a little more collaborative. Next, please. The third priority is to develop programs celebrating community and the diversity, the diverse cultures in San Leandro. So the first thing we want to work on is creating an annual calendar for cultural events representing different ethnic and cultural groups. So while we, I think, loosely do this between some of the city departments, really a focused effort to do this where we can find collaboration and also spaces where, you know, we have very limited resources, and rather than unnecessarily duplicate, where can we one department really key in on an area, and where can another key in on another, and where can we collaborate when needed? And then the next step would be to develop partnerships with local agencies to collaborate on free programs highlighting the different cultural practices such as dance, crafts, storytelling. You could probably add food in there as a good one. So we really want to find those local agencies that we can collaborate with. And then to update the San Leandro History Museum exhibit, People of Many Lands, to represent the diverse backgrounds of current day San Leandro. The existing exhibit is just a little outdated. We've grown past, you know, the people who live here now. There's so many different folks represented. We need to make sure they see themselves in that museum. Next, please. Thank you. And then to expand utilization of early childhood education programming. We know this is such an important piece to what we do to get kids really kindergarten ready is kind of one of the things that across different departments that we all have in common. And so the first thing is to develop and execute a promotional plan for bilingual childhood programs to promote to the target audience, and develop partnerships with local schools, daycares, preschools, nonprofits to collaborate on free educational workshops for kindergarten readiness. And then lastly, one that we know works very well, exposed to 1,000 books or more before kindergarten, have the best chance for success of reading by kindergarten. Next, and I believe this is our last priority for this section, which would be to expand technology-based adult education programs. So we'd like to identify, develop, and implement structured time in different modalities for teaching digital learning skills to seniors and adults, especially to those with kind of the low-tech skills. People learn differently, and we need to make sure we're reaching out in different ways. And again, this also comes to resources. While at the library, people come to us daily, it's not always the best use of resources to better. And then we'd like to teach artificial intelligence literacy to better equip San Leandrins to embrace, interpret, understand, utilize, and consider the ethics of AI. Just like decades ago when the internet was new, the library was there for communities when people weren't sure what the internet was going to do, how to use it. We're kind of at the same crossroads right now with AI. AI is here. Not everyone knows how to use it, when to use it, when it is AI, when it's a real person. So we really need to be here to help teach the community those types of skills so they can advance and continue to be comfortable in the world today with technology. And then similarly, to develop partnerships with organizations to provide basic IT skills workshops and new and emerging technologies, as well as coding for adults. We recognize as the library, while we teach a lot of things, we're not the experts on a lot of this stuff. So we need to find those experts for the places we are not and be able to utilize those. So the community is engaged and ready to contribute both educationally and which hopefully will piggyback onto one of the other priorities, which is the economic development priority. Thank you for these priorities.
Thank you, Brian. So the next bucket that we have in the quality of life work plan is beautification. And real quick to answer Councilwoman's question regarding ARPA funding. Part of the ARPA funding was for a Beautify San Leandro initiative, which included volunteer specialists, community grants, median maintenance shortfall, community cleanups, street tree watering, and median rehab. So this next bucket is really an opportunity for us to enhance San Leandro's public spaces and community aesthetics through sustainable practices, public engagement, and responsible urban design. So some of the things we're going to be focusing on is clean and beautify public spaces, as well as expanding greenery and tree canopy coverage. The first deliverable we have listed was to expand volunteer opportunities for cleaning streets and public spaces citywide. And some of the activities that we have listed under this deliverables to launch a citywide program, encouraging community groups to maintain specific areas, organize quarterly citywide volunteer cleanup days focusing on high traffic areas and parks, and to develop volunteer kits with cleanup tools and educational materials on waste reduction. Planting guide from homeowners and businesses to incorporate drought tolerant landscaping. To organize quarterly volunteer programs for community planting days in city parks and medians. Next slide. Next deliverable we have here is going to be aligning as well with this future tree master plan that was in the infrastructure work plan, and that's to expand citywide tree canopy coverage. The activities we have listed under here is to reestablish community tree planting events to increase resident involvement. And we saw that with the CALP Fire Grant. The amount of residents that came in and the passion behind these tree planting events was well received. So we're looking to reestablish that. We're looking to establish a tree donation program, encouraging businesses and residents to sponsor tree planting efforts. It takes a village. We're looking to collaborate with environmental organizations to host educational workshops on tree care and maintenance. We've seen a little bit of this through the Beautify initiative, and we're looking to expand more and to further our partnerships and collaboration with placement of litter receptacles to maximize usage and enhance cleanliness. So some of the activities contract. The next deliverable we have as part of this focus area is to establish a private tree protection ordinance. We heard from residents regarding the cutting down of multiple trees on public property. So we're looking to draft and propose an ordinance to protect mature trees on private properties. We're looking to launch an educational campaign to inform property owners of the ordinance and its benefits. We recently have just secured funding and have a Civic Sparks Fellow that's going to be helping with a lot of outreach and education around urban forestry. We're also going to look into establish an online permit system for managing tree maintenance and removal of requests on private property. Currently, we do have increased tree canopy coverage. Next slide. This is a schedule that we have, as Brian mentioned earlier. We have some short-term, mid-term, and long-term deadlines. Again, if you notice with the previous focus area as well as this one, it's a two-year work plan. So we're trying to be strategic, and as the comments earlier, come back to council with another two-year strategic plan as well too, to really address the priority of quality of life. So we're going to come to the next focus area. So the next focus area is really dealing with health and wellness. We want to foster a healthier, more active community by promoting wellness, inclusivity, and providing access to essential services for all ages and abilities. We're really going to be focusing on increasing recreation opportunities for all residents, and expanding access to healthy living services. So one of the deliverables we have in this focus area is to develop recreation programs for inclusivity in diverse age groups. We want to expand intergenerational programs to bring together youth and seniors for shared activities and experiences. We want to develop accessible recreation programs catering to different abilities, including adaptive sports programs. We want to offer bilingual and multicultural fitness classes to attract diverse community members. We've really heard from the community as well as in the tree master plan, the recreation parks master plan, that this is a high priority for residents. Next slide. I'm going to pass it on to our Human Services Director, Jessica Lobendam.
Jessica Lobodon. Thank you. Everyone gets it wrong for my entire life. So one of the initiatives that we'll also be working on is partnering with local organizations to create accessible and affordable healthy eating options, particularly for low-income families. We'll be working on organizing healthy cooking workshops in collaboration with organizations, identifying and allocating budget and funding to support existing food pantries, distribution sites, and other food access programs, and implementing new sites in strategic locations as necessary, as well as partnering with organizations to develop cooking classes focused on affordable, nutritious meals. I'll hand it back to Director Zuniga.
The next deliverable we're going to also focus on is to hold healthy and active living events. So we want to make sure that we organize annual community fairs offering free health screening and fitness activities. We want to collaborate with local fitness instructors and gym to host community fitness challenges citywide. We also want to partner with local fitness instructors to offer free outdoor exercise classes in our parks. I'm going to pass it back to Jessica.
Thank you. We're also looking to partner with local organizations for expanded senior services. Working to offer technology training workshops for seniors to help them access telehealth services, collaborating with caregiving agencies to provide respite care and caregiver support programs, and creating senior-friendly recreational activities such as walking clubs and gentle yoga sessions. Thank you.
The last deliverable, we're really looking to expand collaboration with schools for public use of recreation facilities. That's going to include reviewing and updating joint use agreement with school districts to ensure public access to recreation spaces after school. It's going to also include collaborating and organizing community sports leagues and fitness programs, utilizing school gyms and fields, and also continuing to work collaboratively to coordinate with schools to offer weekend wellness programs for students and families at school district facilities as well. Again, as mentioned with the last two focus areas, this is a 2-year work plan where we're trying to be strategic and intentional on some of the deliverables and activities. And once these two are completed after this 2-year plan is completed, then we'll come back with some new strategic deliverables as well to really enhance quality of life for San Leandro residents. Again, I'm going to keep harping. This is a 2-year work plan. We're focusing on art, culture, and education, beautification, health, and wellness. We're focusing on sustainable practices, cultural inclusivity, and improving health outcomes. And again, this can't be done, like I mentioned before, it's the residents is going to be key. Thank you.
Okay, council members, thank you, by the way, for the presentation. You guys have covered a lot. We're going to shake it up a little bit, council members. We're going to take our public input first, and then we're going to go through some.
We have one speaker on the Zoom, and that's Douglas Spalding. You are free to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Sounds like a great plan. I appreciate everyone's work in this regard, and certainly the programs in San Leandro have been great. I especially love going to the library and seeing everything that's going on, all of the opportunities in our city. I do feel a bit odd about the beautification part of the plan. Because in my mind, it's really more than merely beautifying. It is about resiliency, the concept of resiliency, and it certainly seems to me that word has gotten lost since we sacked Dr. Mock, who I think really provided a lot of leadership in that regard. And it's been unfortunate to go to like planting programs and realize, oh, the plants actually aren't natives. It's not just that they're drought resistant. It's that they belong in the environment, and that they not only don't require as much water, but they provide food for pollinators, and they support the ecosystem. And we have to really, I think, kind of maybe not preach that, but educate that. Like, we all deserve to learn, how our ecosystem works in all the natural ways, as well as the social and political ways. So I'm looking forward to go to the beautification event at the library, and I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of natives, and I love to get my hands in the dirt and dig away. I also think it can't just all be run on volunteers, and I think that's the hope here as well. We can, we don't really need the director of resiliency. We'll just have the volunteer coordinator run it. And I think Friends of the San Leandro Creek is sort of similarly sidelined. We're not really, don't have an office in the Department of Public Works anymore. You guys can, be a private independent contractor. The city needs to prioritize. Thank you.
Mayor, we did get one speaker card after all.
Okay, let's do that.
Mike Katz-Lakabe.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Mike by the talk about trees. And the versus the areas in which there are not trees is remarkable. On a hot day, it makes a huge, huge difference. In addition to the shade and cooling effect that trees provide, they also do a lot to attenuate the city sounds that one might find annoying, whether it's vehicles, or God help me, leaf blowers, or other distractions that happen during the day. And not only that, but they do their bit to attenuate pollution as well. So I strongly encourage the city to work with members of the community, and I certainly volunteer myself for this as well, to plant as many trees as we can. It will make this city a lot better, and will encourage people to get out and walk around, because it's just so much more pleasant when there's trees around. So thank you very much.
That was our final card.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we'll close public comment. I did want to clarify one thing. One of our public commenters said, or at least intimated, that there was a sacking, a firing of our previous I don't remember the exact term of Dr. Mock's title. So to be clear, Dr. Mock went to work for the state of California. Dr. Mock was not fired by the city of San Leandro. There was no sacking, using the British term. With that, we are going to go to Councilmember Baloo first.
If that's the old adage, repeat a lie often enough and people start to believe it. On this, I have a couple questions for Mr. Simons, and that is, thank you both for the presentation, and Jessica for chiming in as well. I think my question is, you talked about more exposure for the arts, and I saw a lot of examples of visual arts. Is there any plan to include performing, such as how we might showcase some of the great art in San Leandro?
It's a great question. The grants program that we would put forward would be open to all avenues of art, be it visual, performing, writing. So we would really allow the community to some degree with that program decide what their interests are by those who are applying, but also with just the general efforts that we would do at the library, we would want to continue to do the performing arts pieces that we are already doing, and would look to amplify that as well.
That's one of the most fun experiences I had in my tenure as a councilman, was going to one of your performing arts shows at the library. It was Native American, and they were beating a drum, and the guy challenged us to go along with him. And about 35 seconds later, our hearts were beating with the drum. It's amazing that humans do that, but it was just a weird thing to be part of that and learn from that. So that's why I asked about the performing arts and showcasing. I know you already do it, but anything moving forward, I think it would be really exciting for the rest of the community to be able to experience things that make them go, wow, that was cool. The second question has to do with the early childhood education piece. And I know, I don't want to get in the weeds with it. It's a plan. It's a good plan. It's very, it's is to partner, and I'm sure it's happened, but I think they probably have some very strong ideas about how we might be able to help or partner with them. In the library, I know already certainly plays a huge role in that.
Yes, thank you for that. Our children's department works very close with the school districts. And in particularly, we have one staff member who a few years back, this council thankfully appointed that position in the budget as a school liaison. So that position works very closely with the schools in addition to the rest of our children's department. So we do have that relationship already where we're working with them to find out what's working, what isn't, where are the pieces that they really need help with in terms of getting the kids ready. And that's where we try to focus our attention then.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So with that, we will go to Councilmember Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor. So a few things I'm going to probably have to come back around to me because I'm very, very excited about this quality of life. All of these things, I just can't stop typing with my thoughts and questions. I also love a good Gantt chart, so excellent. I'll start with Brian, since you were first to go. I really appreciate that there being just this really innovative approach to it. I know that we do have some art grants that are out right now. So where's that funding coming from? And then where's the new funding coming from for the art programming?
Thank you. That's a great question. So the funding currently is coming from annual operating funding, and for the commission to designate how it wanted to spend that. And then if you recall, the Arts Commission and the Library Historical Commission had merged into this new Arts, Culture, and Library Commission. And part of that merger was a one-time influx of an additional $75,000. So this particular cycle, the commission set aside $80,000 of that total 150 to be for the arts grants. Now, in future years, that amount has not been planned for because that was a one-time expense. So that's partly why that first bullet is there. Is we have to work within our means. So we have to look at what is available. So currently, we would work with the commission going forward to then help them decide what of the city funds that would be allocated for that do they want to position as arts grants, and then if they would like more, what are then some strategies we need to do, kind of getting down to that third bullet of do we need to find some partners? If that means funding, if there's other ways that maybe funding in kind, being, facilities or resources or what have you. So we're going to have to take a bit of a creative approach to it to keep it going with the current funding that would be available. But there's no reason to think we couldn't do that.
Wonderful. And I know that some of the arts grants that were given are collaborative as well. Was that part of the grant, was that you had to do collaborative art, or was that just some of the awardees or grantees that went with that?
That's correct. It was just some of. It wasn't required, but it was encouraged. And that will be part of the process as well. I think this year was particularly well structured, so we can take a look at the success rate of what happened in this past year. Not all the reports aren't due until November, so we will see the outputs coming soon. So we'll be able to assess not only kind of what we got, but how the process went, and how we can modify that or tweak that to get the best possible results.
Thank you. I think continuing to partner with the school district as well on the performing arts for the middle school and high school would be, the AAPI Culture Festival would be, that could be something that we could look into. The digital learning was mentioned for seniors. Do we have that for kids as well?
It was particularly targeted at seniors and adults in general, because that's where we're seeing the most need. And we did a lot of focus groups with our community. It was particularly targeted at seniors and adults in general, because that's where we're seeing the most need. And we did a lot of focus groups with our community about a year ago. And that's what the feedback we got from the community.
At the middle school and the high school level as well. And I would say that, while there could be some duplication, I do know that as the library is a really safe and welcoming access point for people. So they may not necessarily go to a different organization to go to these classes or even know it's possible. Like my parents would just drop me off at the library. That's how I figured things out. So I think even if we offer some, in terms of partnerships, for the pre-K education workshops, have you looked into some of the programming that First Five Alameda does? Because they could be a fantastic resource.
We do work with them annually every year, in fact. So we're actively working with them, although they've just restructured. So we're kind of rebuilding that relationship to some degree because of what their focus has turned a little bit this last probably 6 months. So we're still trying to figure out where that is.
Okay.
Council member, I will come back to you in a few minutes. It'll be okay. We're going to go to Councilmember Vitas Walton.
I'll start off with cleanliness and then with the cleanliness work. I'm really excited about the 15 litter, sorry, the Spanish came out, receptacles in the downtown. Are these part of the already contracted agreement with ACI, or is that additional?
I'm going to let Public Works Director answer that question.
She's trying.
That is in our current contract.
Okay. And then in terms of the new the survey for the new areas, is that citywide or is that specific to certain region, like certain parts of the city?
A survey would be for citywide.
Thank you. I'll transition over to let's see, collaboration with schools. I'll start off with facilities. Can you tell me a little bit about Fairley Pool? Is that one of those joint agreements with the school district, or is that facility only operated by the city? Can you?
It is owned by the school district, but operated and maintained by the city.
Okay. And that kind of leads into kind of the larger wellness, healthy activity, like active lifestyle. The Family Aquatic Center at Manor Park had a delay in terms of opening the pool. I received a lot of feedback from parents and families that the Fairley Pool schedule was really hard to keep track of and that it was actually really limiting. And it was frustrating for parents to see like the pool that was, open for a couple of hours a day, but like not expanded hours, especially in the summer with really limited activities for children and youth to do. I don't know if this is something that we can explore, but within the work plan, as we look into renegotiating these use agreements with the school district, specifically on Fairley Pool, since a lot of families use that, and that can be also like an intergenerational type of activity, since seniors like to also swim and children do too. And I just wanted to ask in terms of, again, the Manor Park Pool, the Family Aquatic Center, where are we on the finishing up improvements to that?
We're still working with the contractor to finish up the various parts of the improvements, the resurfacing. We did experience a lot of delays for the various components, the shade sails, and there's still quite a bit of work to do, and we're working towards reopening for next summer.
Okay. And then in terms, going back into kind of this collaboration with the school district, in a previous life, I used to do collaboration with user agreements between school district and the city, working towards specific metrics. Do you know if the school district is working towards a kindergarten as readiness goal so that we're able to kind of fine tune? And you talked a little bit about that. I know that it's easier to kind of figure out how to resource various interventions or different programs. Is there a metric that they're working towards that we're kind of assisting or helping or collaborating on?
Thank you. At this time, I'm not aware, but at the same time, I will be attending the school district's state of the district this Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to hear a little bit more about that and then open those channels up a little more.
Right, because I think especially as we look at collaboration with the school district, I'm particularly interested in the metrics that they are working towards to ensure that we're directing resources in a way that align and move the needle forward. You're nodding, so yes.
That makes sense. Yes.
Finally, in my last 30 seconds, I'm really excited about the health and wellness, specifically around food. It sounded to me, and this is just based on my reading of the presentation and listening to you, these are more geared towards adults. Cooking lessons or cooking activities for adults. Is there an opportunity to do like children cooking classes with their caregiver? Because I know when I cook with my kids, they love it. But I don't know if that's in the works or is that already part of it and you just highlighted the adult portion?
Can I add something quickly as well to that? Which is one of the activities also is to identify and allocate budget for expansion of existing programs, which I'm pleased to announce that we did just release an RFP for one-time funding to support food access agencies, and that's of all ages. So that could be a potential pot of funding for that type of activity.
Great. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Seeing as Director Simon brought up this school district, state of the district, I just want to remind all council members, I know some of you are out of the city, but to the extent that you are in town, remember that on Wednesday at 7:30, I think it's in the foyer of the brand new gym, you'll not only get a state of the update of the district, but also get a view of the beautiful inside of that facility that so many of us work so hard towards financing. So we will now move to Council Member Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that announcement. It's great to see this two-year program. My question is with regards to the litter receptacles. I know we received a donation from Amazon. Are we looking to add the same type of receptacle? Is that part of what we're looking to include?
So of the 15, there's 10 that are the big valley Amazon.
Focus with regards to downtown. I'd like to see that we include the entire city, us to main arteries, especially near bus stops. There's a lot of trash that accumulates, litter that accumulates around bus stops. And I'd also like to see with some sort of something that I'd like to see, but yeah, I'd like to ask for reach for the stars in that sense. But if we can also explore that to include trashes around the main arteries near bus stops, I would ask and partner with various corporations to see it. Also with regards to the trees, the tree canopy, where are we at with that Cal grant? I know we received a Cal grant. Has that been depleted or do we still have funding available from the Cal grant, the Cal Fire grant.
That funding and program has concluded.
And how are we going to work to help fund and promote a tree canopy in the city?
So we're finalizing the tree master plan, and that tree master plan is going to have recommendations for increasing tree canopy coverage. So when we come with that plan, we're going to be presenting different scenarios as well as budgetary figures. It's going to include it with those targets. So the tree master plan is really going to give us the blueprint and strategies how to increase tree canopy coverage. Part of this plan is increasing tree canopy coverage, but this part is also the educational piece and the community involvement piece to really get a sense of ownership and pride and community engagement in planting those trees and educating community members of the importance of having more tree and increased tree canopy coverage in the city.
And there, I think we need to take a closer look at certain areas in the city where there's islands where it's just concrete, no trees, especially in the neighborhood where I'm at when it was built. That we're look into and advocate with folks in the community. Hey, we have this available. It's here for you. Let's make a tree and we'll plant it for you. With regards to the art piece, there are other cities that do art walks in their downtown area to help promote. They'll bring in art to various restaurants, and some of them do a wine art walk to help promote the local art in the city, and help display art locally in their establishments. I think that's something that we can look into, and Councilmember Bowen had mentioned also working with local cultural organizations to bring in cultural food events. I partnered with SLEA to help bring LGBTQ pride. I think that's something that we can do because there's, trying to put this together, there's issues with insurance and what have you. And since they have that nonprofit status, we can maybe partner with SLEA to help get that set up and bring that to our city, which would be fantastic. I think those are all of my questions. Thank you.
So thank you. So we are going to go to Councilmember Azevedo, and then Vice Mayor, I will be coming to you after Councilmember Azevedo.
Thank you all for all your hard work. I see a lot of exciting programs. Well, with regard to volunteering programs and opportunities, I see a lot of them for the community. What areas, specific areas are we looking into for the community to volunteer and clean up? Have we looked into different areas? Like, are we going to have one like in Lower Bow and Bayo Vista and different areas, or how do you get into that?
We're working along with community partners and residents, as well as our parks and public works staff to identify high traffic areas or areas that have been identified through our work order system and reporting system for cleanliness or for illegal dumping. So we're working with staff as well as community members to identify locations for beautification or volunteer initiatives. We've also just have a pilot program for new volunteer software. We're able to track volunteer hours, communicate with volunteers, as well as advertise and market volunteer opportunities.
Okay, so kind of partner with the community cleanups and then, okay. All right, another question with regard to arts display. Are we looking into expanding our sister city display? Because I know we have a big population of the Filipino people in San Leandro. Naga is one of our sister cities, and we have Portuguese one and a Brazilian one and a Chinese one. So I didn't know if we're looking into expanding that at all.
Excuse me, at this time, that hasn't been on our radar, but that's something we could check into.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Simon, please.
Thank you. Have we done one of these quality of life work plans before?
I want to go to City Manager Cameron. Have we done one of these quality of life plans before?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is the first time the quality of life priority area was just established by council at the April retreat. and that along with the economic development priority area. So this is the first time you are seeing this quality of life work plan, and the economic development work plan will come in November.
Great, this is excellent. As far as the trees, totally support more trees in the city. We've run into this in Heron Bay, where I live, and we, tried to talk to folks and educate them, but when it came down to it, we had to start finding people when they were mutilating their trees, butchering them, chopping them in half, essentially. Do we have a finding policy we're planning for this tree situation?
Our goal as part of this work plan is to draft the ordinance. With that ordinance, we would have to get approved fees for fines, but we're hoping to bring that to council at the conclusion of this work plan. Property, but our goal is to develop and present an ordinance to protect mature trees on private property.
Yeah, I highly support finding to protect our trees. Again, I support finding as well. I've been across country finding $3,000 to $4,000 for know that we need business to keep our city clean. We cannot keep up with picking up after everyone's trash. It is impossible. So I think we need to put more onto people to clean up their own mess. And if we have to find them, we find them. Next question is intergenerational housing. Intergenerational activities. I love it. Is YAC working with the Senior Commission, or will you be proposing that?
I don't believe it's on the work plan, but the Youth Commission is going to be sworn in soon, and we can make sure we include that on their work plan for this term.
Okay, thank you. Performing arts, would love to see more of that. Music, have we ever considered bringing music into the council chambers, or at least not the chambers, right out front? Exhibit some of our school musicians, neighbor musicians, just to bring it more to our community. I've seen it at the Oakland airport, people playing in the airport.
That isn't something we've comes exclusively to joint use, but we're all happy to bring that to the conversation as well regarding programming at schools and how the city can supplement that with some special interest courses through recreation.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, so I will go back to Councilmember Bowen before offering my thoughts.
Am I going to be timed again? I didn't finish with Brian. I have one last question and then I'll move on. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to say, in terms of like the programming around pre-K readiness childcare, I think it's fantastic. One of the things that the superintendent has been pushing for the last few years is around transforming the whole schools, and part of that is the whole child and the whole community. And so I would offer that as you're thinking through this, to also consider programming for parents as well, especially for moms. I know I'm like the first friends I met in San Leandro were at the story time. And it's so important, especially post-pandemic. There are so many families that did not get a chance to go to a lot of meetups, and the library is like one of those critical places where that's where you go, because as you enter this new phase of your life. So I really appreciate that, and can talk about that for days. But I'm going to move on to beautification real quick. I really appreciate the work that's already being done around that. I am wondering about collaboration with Caltrans along the freeway and Caltrans property. I'm not sure who can really answer that, but that's something that's very top of mind for me, and I get a lot of emails about.
That is definitely something we can explore, working with other government agencies on their property and beautification on those. So yeah, that's definitely something we could explore as future sites.
Okay, thank you.
I know that you also do some interface with Caltrans and other agencies.
Correct. Yes. We have quarterly coordination meetings with Caltrans. And so we take those opportunities to mention some high priority areas in town. So we do our best to communicate those issues with them. We also encourage the community to use their reporting system so that they probably be more responsive to the residents than they would of other agencies.
Can you share with us that, maybe you could just email me or we can get that out somewhere. I can happily share it out as well. Appreciate that. In terms of the community sponsors for the trees, I'm also thinking about community sponsors for the cleanups as well. I know that I get a lot of, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, school groups, they definitely want to do like a cleaning, greening activity. So we can pretty much, I think, like calendar that out if that's something that you're looking into.
Yes, that's correct. We're also looking to develop volunteer kits as well too. So we're hoping to empower volunteers or residents to act independently as well, to ensure that they're being educated on, proper waste disposal, promoting sustainability. So we're working on developing volunteer kits. I have the luxury of working at the Corp Yard, Public Works Corp Yard. And so we have noticed a steady stream recently of multiple organizations coming to pick up streams and pickers as well too. So the community is engaged. So we're hoping to continue to foster and develop those relationships with community members to really give a sense of ownership when it comes to public spaces.
Fantastic. And I'm sure that schools would welcome those volunteer kits. I get emails to donations of gloves and litter pickup and stuff. So that's something to think about as well. The tree master plan, one of the things that I was thinking about today as we're talking about like, especially young children 0 to 5, I was listening to a segment today around the need for childcare centers, especially those that are in different facilities, for more greening and opportunities to have more trees planted because of the increased heat that they experience, smoke, just bad air quality in general, and the really terrible effects it's having on children. At this point, there's stronger causal relationships between bad air and poor health outcomes. And if that's something that maybe we can explore to provide priority or at least outreach to some of our daycare centers that we have, that if they want more trees planted up, above where their playgrounds are, so it's less asphalt and just more cool air around the childcare centers, that I think would be a fantastic way for us to address a need in the community. I also want to give a huge shout out to you for addressing some of the tree concerns that I've had in recent weeks. You've been incredibly responsive with them, and it's something that I think a lot of residents are really passionate about. I also want to bring up the Clean California designation. Caltrans, something that I had looked receive that designation from Caltrans. But I know the city is already doing such to be uplifted because I think it's such a critical issue. And I think that the residents are constantly emailing me or just talking to me about as I'm out and about. I do want to appreciate that, the Fairleigh Pool season did get extended this year, and families were really excited about that. I think obviously we would love more, especially with the heat waves. I've seen other communities do like hot pool days when it gets above like a certain degree. I know you don't want people outside actually when it's above 90, but if there's something that we could do around that. I only have just a tiny bit more, Mayor. I would love to see more mental health programming. I know that this is just the first round of 2-year programming for it, but especially for women, mothers, people that are in like the sandwich generation where you're taking care of young children and older people. I would love an annual, I was talking about all of these like health fairs. Part of that too is maybe even having a nonprofit fair so that all of these nonprofits are being uplifted. You mentioned it, I think, in your closing remarks, Vicente, but about how outreach to the families was critical. I know the families are asking for this, and so I think outreach in terms of just letting people know that it's there and it's coming will make people feel super happy. So just really excited. That was all my.
Thank you for your questions. And
The community cleanups. I think a good opportunity would be to coordinate.
push our partnership with Caltrans. One of the primary complaints that I get about people arriving to our city is the beauty of the entrances. So let's make sure that our entrances are as beautiful as those in other locations in Alameda County. So that when I